going to be building a Adirondack bench this time around. I've got the logs all peeled that I'm going to be using. As you can see, they're quite beefy. I'm going to do this as a gift for someone for their camp. So I wanted a big beefy one, kind of similar, a little bit smaller, but similar size to the arbor bench that I built earlier. All this is just going to be a Adirondack bench. What I'm going to do is a little differently is to be able to show off that curved piece on top of the back. I'm going to put, instead of having planks for the back, I'm going to have spindles running down. So smaller logs, fairly closely spaced together, so it'll be somewhat comfortable that you can sit in and use it that way. I'm still talking to a bunch of people trying to get consensus on what the best coating will be for this. The reason I'm kind of hesitating is if it was for me, I tend to like looking at the log itself, so I tend to go with a really light stain at most, or clear. But as I mentioned before, originally with this batch of logs, my plan was to make 4 Adirondack chairs and paint them the Adirondack chair color, the bright reds, blues, etc. So I'm thinking of doing something like that with this bench, but doing a combination of colors. So that's still up in the air. I'm going to kind of wait till it's built. I'll dry fit it all together and then take pictures and talk to some of my friends who have taste, because I have none, and we'll see what we can find out. We're taking these pieces, put them up here, we can look at them. We're going to use these for the 2 side frames of the Adirondack bench that we're going to build. So if you remember from my how to build an Adirondack chair, the measurements are pretty straightforward. There's 4 pieces. The arms, the front legs, the back legs, and the back of the chair. So the arms have to be 20 inches. So I was really lucky in that I've got a piece that is kind of in the ballpark size of all of these. That's exactly 20 inches left over from something else. So there's one arm. What are these? So these 2 are a pretty good match for each other. And they are long enough to be front legs, back legs, or the back of the chair. So let's set those aside as, so double check that. Yeah, they can be any of those. So let's put those there as a pair of something. Now to match this arm, which is an important one to match size-wise, because it'll be very visible. What is it? It has to come from this end. So that's going to be our first cut, regardless of what else we decide. I'll cut that flat, and then we'll do 20 inches. So that'll give us the 2 arms. And then what do we have left? So that'll take us to here, say. That'll leave us with roughly 7 feet and a couple of inches. So if we do, let's see. Say we do the chunkier end down here. So if we do, let's say, arm, front leg, what does that land us? So 20 plus 20 plus 20, 60 plus 5, 70. So 7 inches. That would take us down, boom, boom, boom. Oop, and I hooked on there. 70 inches, and I'll give myself 2 more to cover off the end and some scarves. So that would take us to here, give us 2 nicely matching front legs, 2 nicely matching arms, And then I need this one, and this one will be, okay, so here's where the decision making comes in. So those two down there are a good match, and they can either be back legs or the back of the chair. These two up here, which are the only bits I have that are of this size, aren't as great of a match. They're pretty good, but they're not as good. So what we want to do is take these and make them the back legs. The reason for that is that's the least visible of these four pieces. They're down under the chair, and it's rare, especially on a bench size width, it's rare you're going to be looking at both of them at the same time, versus something like the armrest, which is right up in front, or the backs of the chairs, which I'll lose those for. I mean, they're going to be right there, right visible. So these two are the least good match that I have. As you can see, it's a little narrower down at this end than this is. So I'll take from here down and maybe from here up and try to get them as close as I can. So it'll be more like this, something like that. Okay, that's what we're going to do. So arm, front leg, back leg, back, back. Okay, we got her. So now that we've got all the pieces figured out where they're going to be cut from, I just have to cut them all out. You'll see I'm kind of keeping them in pairs and behind me as I cut them. It'd be easy to mix these up and start putting things in the wrong place where they're so close in length. So I always try to keep them in pairs. I came really close to putting a front leg and a back leg position, doing a glue up, one of my earlier chairs. So I'm pretty conscious of it now. As you can see, I've got all my safety gear on, safety shorts, safety sandals. My safety sandals are full of sawdust at this point. These are the pieces that you need for an Adirondack chair. These ones are quite thick. As I mentioned earlier, I'm doing this one, a big beefy one again. Really kind of like the way that looked. It's a bit more work, especially when it comes to cutting the tenons, since my tenon cutters don't go that big. So I've got to do some manual work before I can get the tenon cutters on them. That's all right. Yeah, I think that's it. I think we're ready to start drilling holes, cutting tenons.
Hey, so I hope you enjoy this little bit of sanding that's here. This is all you're going to see in this video. I did hours and hours and hours of sanding, first with the grinder and then with the new orbital sander. Two grits on everything. So it was quite a lengthy process, but I'm not going to subject you guys to that. So that's it for sanding. Well, we are almost at the end of this video. Part 2 will include the rest of this bench build, and then part 3 is a bit of a bonus as I decided to add footstools partway through this build. They were a total made up thing, but I really like how they turned out. As I mentioned earlier, I left out all the sanding and log peeling. I tried to just include the actual build parts. I left almost all of the build in, sped up of course, just so you can see all the steps. The beginning of this video also has a lot of the design decisions I made. Like most of my projects, I started this with just a vague idea and refined it as I went along. Having said that, I'm going to start creating actual plans that I can follow as I develop more products. Please hit that subscribe button. I'm still trying to build this channel up.